They were all in the living room. My husband, my sister, a few of our mutual friends. Laughter filled the air, low and relaxed, like they had something in common that excluded me. I stood in the doorway holding the plate of fruit I'd cut, strawberries, pineapple, and a single candle poked through the center. No one noticed. Not even him. I smiled anyway. My name is Camille. Quiet, ordinary, forgettable Camille. At least that's what I became in his eyes. You know what the worst sound in the world is? Not yelling. Not fighting. It's laughter when you're invisible inside it. I took a small step in. My dress was the same one he picked out for me 3 years ago. The emerald green one he said made me look like somebody. He didn't even glance my way now. But my sister did, just long enough to roll her eyes like I was embarrassing her. And then he said it. Loud enough for the room. Quiet enough to pretend it wasn't meant for me. She's too old to celebrate birthdays now. 40's basically retirement, right? Everyone laughed. Even she. Even my baby sister. The one I used to braid hair for in high school while protecting her from bullies. I froze. He hadn't said happy birthday. Not even a card. No dinner plans. And now he was making me the punchline. Till I smiled. I nodded. I walked back into the kitchen and whispered, "It's okay," to myself like it was some kind of mantra. That night I didn't cry. I watched him pack. He said he had a work retreat. I noticed her beach bag in the trunk. Her sandals. The red ones I loaned her last month. He didn't even bother hiding it. The next morning I saw the photo. My sister, in my dress, standing on the beach. My husband holding her waist, his caption loud and vile. Sometimes life gives you an upgrade. Something cracked open in me. Not a scream. Not a sob. Just silence. Dense, dark, surgical. I opened my laptop. I started typing. The woman they all forgot. The one in the corner with the fruit plate, she had something they didn't. A truth that would unravel him. Piece by rotten piece. And all it would take was a cake. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was crying, I was calculating. The post had gone live at 8:42 p.m. I saw it at 8:46. By 8:48 I had already screenshotted it along with the comments. Fire upgrade indeed. Damn bro, your sister-in-law fine. You did good. Each one felt like a slap, not just to my face but to the years I spent building this man's life. He had nothing when I met him. Nothing. He was working night shifts at a parking garage and I was the one doing his resume. I helped him finish his degree. Paid for half of it. Co-signed the loan for his first business. And when it took off, when the calls started coming in and he got invited to speak at tech conferences, he introduced me as his rock. Now I was just dust beneath his feet. But rocks don't disappear. They sink. They wait. And I was already planning how deep he was about to fall. I picked up my phone. Called Yasmin, a friend of mine who used to do PR crisis management. We hadn't spoken in 2 years, but when I told her the man's name, she paused. "Oh," she said slowly. "Your husband's that tech guy. The app that scans contracts, right?" "Yes. And he's about to be scanned too." I sent her the post. The full context. The timeline. The screenshots of hotel bookings, tied to our joint account, stupidly left open on the home computer. "Camille," she whispered. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I didn't hesitate. I want him remembered. Not for his success, but for what he did to the woman who built it with him. And then the idea hit me. He was about to speak at a $100,000 tech summit in Atlanta. The marriage of AI and ethics. The irony almost made me laugh. He loved publicity. Loved the stage. Loved to act like a humble genius with a supportive wife, somewhere in the crowd. So I was going to give him one more spotlight. But this time the cake would do the talking. 3 tiers. Frosted lies. I had it designed that night. Every sugar flower hiding a secret. Inside. QR codes. Linked to receipts. Screenshots. Videos. And I knew exactly when it would be delivered. Not to our home. To the keynote stage. He made me invisible. Now I'd make him unforgettable. The bakery didn't ask questions. I gave them the design, the delivery date, and a note for the top of the cake in gold script. For the man who built an empire, on someone else's back. 3 tiers. Ivory fondant. Sugar roses. Elegant, not petty. But beneath the beauty was poison. Not the kind that kills. The kind that wakes the world up. Each QR code I had baked into the sugar panels led to one of three things. 1. Proof of the affair. 2. His fraudulent finances, the ones I helped him cover before he was famous. 3. My voice, steady, calm, telling my story. Our story. Yasmin helped me host the files anonymously. I paid her in silence and tears I didn't let fall. The cake was scheduled to arrive exactly 10 minutes into his keynote. And I would be sitting in the second row, not in my emerald dress but in black. Not mourning him, but burying the version of me that begged to be seen. The day before the summit I packed my suitcase. My hands were calm. My breath quiet. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not even my mother. On the flight I watched a video of my husband from last year's summit. He was smiling, full of sound bites. Without integrity there's no innovation. I almost choked. I remembered the night he came home drunk after signing his first investor deal. He told me, "Camille, I'd trade God for a legacy." I had laughed then. Now I just whispered, "And I'll be the one to write it." That evening I checked into the hotel under a different name. I passed his room, saw my sister's pink tote bag through the slightly cracked door. They were careless. Greedy. Loud. That's the thing about people who think they've won. They forget the quiet ones are still watching. The summit morning arrived. The ballroom was filled with executives, cameras, and media crews. His name glowed on the LED screen. Elijah Montclair, Huvauskan AI. He walked on stage like a king. Confident. Clean. The crowd cheered. I didn't. I sat still, clutching the locket around my neck, the one with our wedding photo. I had almost thrown it away. But today it served as proof he was once mine. And I was once enough. Exactly 10 minutes in, the doors opened. A server rolled in the cake, confused but instructed. Elijah faltered mid-sentence. I'm not sure what this is. Laughter rippled through the room. Phones lifted. Cameras clicked. He leaned down to read the gold script. Then his eyes found mine, in the second row. And that was the moment I saw it. Panic. He froze. His voice cracked mid-sentence. A slight tremor but enough for the audience to feel it. "Elijah, everything okay?" the moderator asked, smiling nervously, eyes darting between the cake and the tension in the air. Elijah stepped back like it might explode. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I wanted him to feel it. That helplessness, that confusion, that spiraling shame. The server looked unsure. "It was ordered under your name, sir." It said, "Urgent, keynote delivery." Someone in the crowd laughed. I watched his eyes dart around, searching for a lifeline. For me. For her. But my sister wasn't here. She never showed up to the event. I made sure of that. The night before, while Elijah slept, I slipped an envelope under their door. Inside were printouts of the QR codes and a single sentence. "Enjoy your last morning beside a man about to lose everything." She checked out at 5:12 a.m. Not loyalty. Just fear. Now he stood alone, the great Elijah Montclair. Betrayer. Liar. Headliner. The moderator tried to keep the mood alive. "Well, looks like someone has a sweet tooth." More laughter. But it was nervous now. Elijah attempted a smile, the corners of his mouth twitching. Then someone scanned one of the QR codes. I saw it happen in real time. A man in the front row. He blinked, stared at his phone, then slowly raised it to record. Then another scanned. Then another. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Wait, is this real? Yo, this is his wife. Bro, he stole from his own investors?" And just like that, the cameras turned on him. Not in admiration but in revelation. I stood slowly. Quietly. Every movement deliberate. As if I had all the time in the world. Elijah saw me, lips parted like he might say something. Maybe a plea, maybe a threat. But he said nothing. Because he knew. He knew I didn't come here for a scene. I came here for the truth. And it was finally louder than him. The cake was still untouched. But every layer was now devoured by the internet. Uploaded, shared, dissected. Within 15 minutes, the summit organizers had ushered him off stage. Within 20, a statement was being drafted. And within 30, his empire began to crack. But I wasn't done. That was just the performance. Now came the reckoning. The hotel was quiet when I walked out. Not a word from Elijah. Not a call. Not even a text. Just silence. The same kind he gave me on my birthday. The same kind he gave our marriage when it no longer served his image. But silence doesn't mean peace. It means the storm is coming. I sat in the lobby watching the summit livestream updates roll in. The keynote had been postponed indefinitely. Sponsors were reviewing internal concerns. One of his biggest investors, Red Peak Capital, posted a cryptic message online. Integrity is everything. No exceptions. I smiled for the first time in days. This wasn't revenge. This was justice. With frosting. My phone buzzed. Yasmin. They're spiraling, she said, almost breathless. Media outlets are calling. Someone's leaking more. Not me, I replied calmly. I'm not leaking. I'm letting gravity do the work. Because that's the truth about people like Elijah. Once the first crack shows, the whole image begins to collapse. You don't have to scream. You just have to step back and let the weight of their lies bury them. Back in my room, I opened the email I'd saved for this moment. The subject line. Final statement. If they try to silence me. It was written 6 months ago. Back when I found the first late-night text between him and my sister. I didn't confront him. I researched him. Traced every paper trail. Made backups. Recorded conversations when he was too arrogant to whisper. I had always been quiet. But I had never been stupid. I sent the statement to 3 publications. All of them had once written glowing articles about him. Now they'd write his obituary, career-wise. And at the bottom of the statement I wrote, "Let this be a reminder, women remember. Even when we're forgotten." I pressed send. Then I booked a flight home. Not to the house we shared. I didn't need keys anymore. I had my own place now, one he didn't know existed. I built it while he built his castle on lies. By the time my plane took off, he had released a shaky apology video. Some personal matters have come to light, he said. I asked for privacy during this time. But privacy is earned. He spent years taking mine. I gave him exposure in return. And the next time the world saw Elijah Montclair, it would be with captions he didn't write. And consequences he couldn't escape. The video hit 1 million views by nightfall. Not his apology, that one barely cracked 50,000. But mine. The one with my voice narrating over the screenshots. The receipts. The clip of my sister laughing in our living room while I stood invisible at the doorway. That one had legs. The internet called it, the cake that cracked a CO. And I didn't say a word online. I let my voice speak through quiet, deliberate storytelling. No tears. No yelling. Just facts. Just betrayal. Just the truth that women carry like splinters under skin for years. It turns out people don't want rage. They want reason. They want to feel it. The slow burn of a woman who watched her own erasure. And decided to make it art. My lawyer called the next morning. Camille, he's begging to settle quietly. Says he wants to protect the family name. I laughed so hard I startled my dog. He already ruined the name, I said. Now I'm just cleaning up the mess. Because let's not forget, I co-signed the business. My name's on the founding documents. I built the first prototype with him. Stayed up with him, fueled him, lent him my savings. So when the media started digging deeper and found my fingerprints under his legacy, they turned their attention. And that's when I moved. I published my own op-ed in a women's business magazine titled, "What Happens When You Build a Man Who Forgets You?" It trended within hours. And then the messages started coming in. Not hate but solidarity. Women. Men. Even industry leaders. Your strength is surgical. You turned betrayal into a case study. I saw myself in every word. If this ever happened to you, say, same in the comments. Suddenly, I wasn't a wife scorned. I was a voice. A mirror. A warning. But not for him. For every woman who's ever been told she's too old, too much, or past her prime. My sister tried to reach out. A pathetic, trembling voice note. Camille, I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Please. I messed up. I didn't respond. Because forgiveness isn't owed, and some silence is sacred. Let them sit in what they built. Meanwhile I was busy. Busy preparing for what came next. Because Elijah thought he'd buried me. But I was just planting roots. 3 weeks later I walked into the same boardroom where I used to wait outside. Holding coffee, holding his coat, holding my breath. No. I walked in alone. Head high. Contract folder in one hand. Silence in the other. The board had called an emergency meeting. Elijah was out. Pending investigation was the official term. But the truth was, no one wanted to touch a man trending under #CakeRevenge. They had combed through the documents. And guess what they found? Me. My name. My early work. My initial research notes. The original LC registered in both our names, before he bought me out with a car and an anniversary dinner I paid for. One of the executives, a sharp woman in a navy blazer, nodded as I entered. "Camille Montclair," she said, offering a seat. "Or do you go by something else now?" I smiled. "Camille. Just Camille." The meeting lasted less than 20 minutes. By the end, I had a formal offer to return not as the co-founder's ex-wife, but as interim director of ethical development. The irony was poetic. Elijah built his empire on my back. Now I would rebuild mine, on the ashes of his. After the meeting, I stepped outside and sat on the bench across the street, the same one I used to cry on years ago when he told me to stay home and let him lead. I looked up at the glass tower, then down at my hands still steady. That night I hosted a quiet dinner. Just me, Yasmin, and 2 women from the summit who had messaged me privately. One of them had once interned for Elijah. He'd fired her for dressing too confidently. We toasted not to revenge, but to reclamation. "This," I said, holding up my glass, "isn't about taking back what was mine. It's about remembering I never had to give it up." Yasmin smiled. "He underestimated the wrong woman." I nodded. He always did. Later that night, I posted one photo to my private account, just my hand holding a slice of the leftover cake from the summit. No caption. Just a single QR code frosted onto the plate. People understood. No need to explain power when you become the proof. And tomorrow? Tomorrow I'd walk back into that building not as someone's wife. Not as someone's memory. But as Camille. The woman who sent a cake, and got her life back. The final blow didn't come with fireworks. It came in a quiet email sent at 9:03 a.m. Subject: Official termination and board resolution. Elijah Montclair has been removed from all executive and advisory roles, effective immediately. No statement. No fanfare. Just silence, the kind that swallows pride whole. He tried to fight it, of course. Hired lawyers. Blamed mental stress. Claimed betrayal. But you can't fight what you fed. The paper trail was clean. The videos were time-stamped. And the narrative? Too powerful to undo. Turns out, people listen when a woman speaks plainly. Calmly. Without begging. My sister left town. Vanished. No goodbye. No apology that mattered. Last I heard, she was trying to start over in Florida. Working retail, avoiding eye contact with mirrors. Let her. I don't chase ghosts anymore. As for me, I rebuilt. Not out of bitterness. But with clarity. I launched a consultancy, Reclaim Ethics. Specializing in helping women recover and restructure businesses they helped build, but were erased from. Clients poured in within weeks. The first workshop was titled, "The Cost of Staying Silent Too Long." I wore a white suit that day, the same color as the cake I sent. People asked me, "Aren't you angry?" I told them, "No. I'm awake." There's something sacred in the stillness that comes after betrayal. You start seeing everything clearly. The way you were bent to fit someone else's spotlight, the way your voice dimmed itself to protect their image. But I'm not dimming anymore. Last week, a young intern asked me, "How did you know it was the right time to act?" I smiled and answered, "It wasn't a moment. It was a buildup of 1,000 forgotten ones." She didn't understand then. But she will. One day when someone tries to fold her into silence and she remembers my story. The fruit plate. The quiet birthday. The dress. The beach. The cake. Because sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about restoration. Not of him. Of you. And that's what this was. Not revenge. Restoration.